Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about roasting a whole turkey with stuffing on the big green egg. So, the first thing you want to do is remove the wishbone right there from inside the turkey. Just take a boning knife and carve around the wishbone and gently pull it out with your fingers. That's going to give you the ability to take off the entire breast down the road with the carving knife without hitting any bones and obstructions. Second thing we're going to do once that wishbone comes out is we're going to start making the brine, and you absolutely have to brine your turkey the night before you put it out on the big green egg. Yep, there's the wishbone. And the brine recipe is pretty simple. It is 1 cup of salt to 1 gallon of water. Now, you can see there I'm using sea salt, and sea salt's a little less strong than regular table salt. So my brine turned out pretty much spot on. If you're going to use a regular table salt, you may want to use just a pinch less. So I'm using a half-gallon container to measure, and that's a half cup. Just go ahead and add the salty water in there and put warm water in the brine. And then we're going to add some spices to the brine as well. So I had the giblets in the neck as well too. And in terms of spices, I've got a little bit of fresh sage. Sage and poultry go really well together. For whatever reason, they just mix very nicely together. I got some bay leaves, which I'm going to crush up and throw in there. A little bit of peppercorn, and a couple sprigs of rosemary. And I believe that's it. Yep, that's it. And then I just make sure that the turkey is completely covered. The same night, I want to go ahead and chop up all my vegetables for the stuffing, which is onions, carrots, and celery. And that is it. So the next day, first thing in the morning, I want to go ahead and start working on the stuffing. And first thing we're going to do is sweat down some onions. So we go ahead and toss those onions in, and we're going to cover them and cook them really slow until they're pretty much clear. And then right after the onions go in, and they're completely sweated out, we want to add a little salt that helps them sweat. We're going to go ahead and add the celery and the carrots. And we really want to cook down the celery and the carrots pretty far. So you'll see you're going to want to test the celery and the carrots, but in particular the carrots. And the way you test them to see if they're ready to go is you take the back of your spoon and you just kind of smush them up against the pot. And if they're too hard, obviously they're not going to smush at all. And if they're too soft, they're going to completely smush. So you want it to be just easy enough to, there it is, to smush it, but not so easy that it completely falls apart. That means you've overcooked the vegetables. Then I'll go ahead and add a couple bags of herb seasoning, breadcrumbs, cubed, and I've tried to make my own in the past, and it turns out fine, but it's just not worth the effort. And then I'm going to go ahead and add 1.5 to 2 containers of sour cream. Now, I'm making a lot of stuffing here because that happens to be my family's favorite thing to eat for Thanksgiving. So I always make extra stuffing and then I bake it on the side. I just cover it with some tin foil and put it in the oven and bake it. And so I'm going to go ahead and start mixing in the sour cream, and I'm going to add just a little bit more. I think I ended up going to about 2 containers of sour cream because I used quite a bit of breadcrumbs here. And I'm going to go ahead and add some butter here in just a second as well. And you want this stuffing to go in the turkey warm. So the turkey is out. I had brined it overnight for about 12 hours. I pulled it out, I rinsed it off, and it's just kind of sitting there waiting. And I want that stuffing to go into the turkey hot. And the reason for that is when I put it out on the egg, it's going to speed up the cooking time. It's going to actually cut the cooking time down by almost an hour by adding in hot stuffing into the bird. So, and I know there they are picking away at it already. And I know some people are going to say, "Oh, you should never add in hot stuffing into a raw bird. It's bad. You're going to get somebody sick." I've been doing this for years. I always bring my turkey up to temp to 165 degrees. I've never had anybody get sick from eating the turkey. So you can see there it's pretty good consistency. Now, we took the wishbone out of there, so there's a little bit of a gap there, and you can see that loose skin, and I'm just patting down the inside of the turkey, getting some of that excess brine out in the water. And I really jam it in there. And you could pack it in a little bit looser if you like it. But because we eat, I mean, again, the primary thing we eat for Thanksgiving is stuffing, I jam it in there and I try to get in as much as I can. Now you could pick up that flap of skin right there, which is from the neck of the bird, and just ball up some stuffing and put it in there. But I push it through. I kind of roll the skin down, and you'll see I'll push it through, and it's going to really help shape the bird out so it really looks a little bit prettier when you serve it. It's going to be nicely filled out in the back, and you really want to kind of just jam it through there. And when you're taking out that wishbone, you want to open up that area a little bit. That way you can just kind of force a little bit extra stuffing in there. So I'm going to go ahead and keep stuffing that. I'm going to roll those that skin down and underneath. You can see it just kind of blows up like a balloon, and that actually is the best part of the stuffing right there, is the back of the bird and the front of the bird. The front of the bird is going to be nice and smoky from the big green egg, and the back of the bird, because of all that fat that's underneath the skin, it just drips into the stuffing, and I mean, it's just delicious. It is fantastic. So I'm stuffing now the main cavity of the bird. Got it pretty much stuffed. I'm going to go ahead and take that skin up in the front and tighten up the legs a little bit so the legs aren't flopping around and loose. You want them close to the body so it cooks evenly. And I'm just shaping up a little bit of a ball in the front and of stuffing, and that's going to turn pretty dark and toasted, but it's also going to be very smoky and delicious. And now I'm just taking a wet paper towel and wiping off any excess stuffing. Want to make sure the bird is nice and clean. The shape of the back looks good. The shape of the front looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and tuck the wings up and underneath so they don't just hang out there and burn. Now they're going to basically get cooked in the natural fats that are going to come off this bird and the water that's going to come off this bird. So the wings will be nice and cooked and soft. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of vegetable oil on top of it. Vegetable oil gives it just a nicer brown color. It'll just brown up the bird and crisp it up a little bit more. And one of the techniques I learned years and years ago from Cooks Illustrated, as a matter of fact, was you want to go ahead and create what's called a heat shield. And I put this on top of the turkey. It's just a little bit of tin foil, and it's going to be shaped in a kind of a triangular shape. And what we're trying to do here is protect the breasts. So the first 45 minutes, you're going to go ahead and put the bird in the oven, 375 to 400 degrees, or rather I should say into the egg, 375 to 400. Then you're going to turn the temp down from 400, let's say, to 350. And after 45 minutes, you're going to go ahead and remove the heat shield. You can see I got the probe in there right in the thickest part of the breast, and I want the temp to come up to 165. Now, the reason we use the heat shield is so the dark meat from below can get hotter quicker, and that way the bird is going to cook evenly. Now the breasts can cook through, and the dark meat's already gone a little bit hotter. So here you can see I forgot my rag like a knucklehead, and I'm testing it. My bird is actually a little hotter than I wanted it. It was 169 when I pulled it off. And here we go. You can see I'm taking it. By the way, my mother-in-law's knife, the dullest knife in the world, but it got the job done. The entire breast came out. We go ahead and bone out the legs and the thighs, and you gently slice up the breast, start scooping out the stuffing. And I let the bird cool for half an hour after it was uncovered, for half an hour after I took it off the barbecue, or actually rather the egg. And then we drove to my mother-in-law's house, and by the time we ate, it was another hour. So it's been an hour and a half since this thing was on the egg, and you could still see how hot and steaming it is. Enjoy, guys.